It's recap time. Welcome to the Rush Recap. Today, I'll be explaining a thriller science fiction movie called Quarantine 2 Terminal, released in 2011. The film begins with two air hostesses getting ready to board their flight on time. Paula and Jenny, the buddy duo, discuss their concert night and prepare themselves to arrive on time. When the duo catch their flight, they meet with the captain first. We get to know that the captain is suffering from a cold, which he dismisses as a usual infection. He even blames his dog as the carrier of the disease. Meanwhile, Jenny is assigned the responsibility of looking after 13-year-old George, who is also boarding the flight. Also attending the flight is an old doctor on a visit to his daughter. Secondly, a fat person who makes a joke about himself while boarding the plane. Thirdly, a guy carrying a hamster pet bites the former passenger while he tries to fit him in his storage space. At last, the CO captain inquires about the health of the second captain, and the flight takes off. Soon enough, Jenny communicates with George, the kid, about who is picking him up. She tries to converse with the rude kid and nearly succeeds in her attempt. Right after this, two passengers get into a quarrel regarding a cell phone device. Things start to change when the passenger, bitten by the hamster, starts to show signs of fatigue. The passenger asks for something to drink, and the air hostess comes up with the hydration request. One of the fellow passengers on TV watches the news, which indicates a spread of disease in a city apartment. The passenger and the air hostess remain confused about what happened. When Jenny reaches out to help the sick guy, he pukes all over her. Nearly everyone is unsettled after this act, and Paula immediately arrives to help. The sick guy infects a pet cat while sitting with a nearby passenger. Things go completely berserk when the sick guy demands to stop the plan and runs right into the cockpit gate. At first, some passengers tried to stop him individually. The pilots worry about the situation and issue a red code right away. Meanwhile, multiple passengers take it upon themselves to take the sick guy down. They restrain him by tying his hands around and calming the situation down. Afterwards, George is examined for a concussion. The air hostesses offer their apologies to the passengers, and everyone takes a rest after the high-voltage signal. The situation goes a complete 360 when the captain informs us of an emergency landing. After the entire ruckus, the authority wants them to land the flight immediately. This led to a slight panic among the passengers, as they were unprepared for this. The air hostess tries her level best to bring the situation under control. When Jenny and Paula try to help the sick and unconscious passenger, it takes a wrong turn. The sick passenger wakes up from his unconscious state and bites the air hostess. This creates a threatening environment as everyone feels scared about the violent passenger. The rest of the passengers lock up the sick guy inside the flight toilet. They make sure that he doesn't get out while the flight lands. Meanwhile, the rest of the attendants deal with the chaos and nurse the bitten flight hostess. The flight captain noticed a strange anomaly when they were denied several procedures after landing the flight. The passengers get out of the light in a hurry and meet up with a ground staff member. He appears to be clueless about the emergency landing. The passengers arrive at the landing terminal and try to get out of the place, but they learn that the gate is locked and no one is opening it. Jenny runs back to the flight captain and gets to know that the violent passenger has tired himself down. The captains advise him to go with the rest of them and seek help as soon as possible. The ground staff informs the passengers that the terminal is temporarily shut down for maintenance, which is why no one is present at this hour. This creates a new sense of worry among the passengers. The ground staff tries an alternate way to enter the building. When they reach the alternate side, the ground staff realizes that everything is closed. All the gates and shutters are automated, and they are weirdly closed. This reminds him of lockdown mode. He shares the information with the passengers and the air hostess, Jenny. The ground staff states that everything is monitored from the outside, and they are not letting us out. When Jenny inquires about the reason for the lockdown, the ground staff guy blames them for the security procedure. Soon enough, a parade of police cars encircled the terminal from the outside. The passengers think that they have arrived for their safety, but feel confused when the siren stops all of a sudden. A helicopter hovers above and announces that the terminal is under quarantine, and no one is supposed to leave it. It also states that help is on the way. The passengers and air hostess make a call to their families, informing them about the situation. Every passenger expresses their frustration with the air hostess, Jenny. They blame her for what has transpired and demand an immediate solution. An already worried Jenny maintains her cool but remains clueless as to what will happen next. The nurse passenger informs Jenny that she will need her bag and kit to save Paula's life. This is when Jenny makes a decision and decides to go back to the plane. She takes the help of the ground staff member, who is hesitant at first but gives in to the call. Jenny, along with a couple of passengers, make their way back to the flight. When they reach the plane, the real horrors begin. At first, they find no one inside the flight. Jenny looks inside a locked door and notices the sick guy missing. She believes that something terrible has taken place. The rest of the passengers look after their left-behind belongings on the plane. As a surprise, they find the old doctor, whom everyone left behind on the plane. They realize that there has been a mistake. Jenny, along with a couple of passengers, looked for the medic bag and other belongings. One of the passengers finds his gun, and another finds his box of hamsters. He notices that the box is broken and the hamsters have broken loose. When Jenny goes out, she notices that the old doctor is missing. She immediately senses something wrong. This is when one of the captains appears in front of him. She realizes that the captain is sick, just like the former passenger, and looks like a zombie. Meanwhile, another captain pulls her up from behind and attempts to bite her. This is when one of the passengers shoots him up from behind. When the shots get fired, the authorities take notice of it. Jenny and the passengers make a run for it and find the old doctor alive. But they realize one of the passengers has been eliminated. Right after, they are attacked by another zombie passenger, but the guys lock her up outside and close the door. When Jenny reaches back, she decides to be in charge of the situation. She mentions that the infection is spreading through bites and that they don't know the clear reasoning behind it. This is when one of the hamsters bites off the old doctor, who is unable to move. The ground staff member, along with a passenger, helps to seal the hamster in a bucket. As a precaution, the passengers lock the old man up as well, along with Paula, the already injured and bitten air hostess. The passengers figure out that the biting hamsters are lab rats. That too, infected ones. This makes them question the guy, Henry, who brought them on the plane in the first place. Henry, when interrogated, makes up a story to calm everyone down. He believes that they were hamsters and not rats. When Jenny tries to inquire about the rats in person with Henry, the sick guy appears out of nowhere. He tries to bite Jenny, but his fellow passengers hang him up using a wire. Shortly, they can eliminate him. The situation turns completely out of hand when a SWAT-like team enters the terminal. They inform them that they need to take injections to make sure no one of them is infected. This is when the old doctor rises from his sleep and bites off one of them. This leads to the team being in a panic, and they start firing their ammunition. The authority locks the team inside, and the team uses their firepower to open the gate. When they try to get out of the premises, one of the passengers accompanies them. This is when the authority outside fires on them and eliminates everyone. The remaining passengers make their way to a safer place. All of them decide to lock themselves in a truck until further help arrives. When they are trying to get into the truck, another passenger gets infected and eliminates his partner. This is when the truck gate closes, and everyone's fate is left in uncertain hands. One of the team members from outside spills the beans about the entire fiasco. He states that the virus broke out in a flat outside the city, and rats are the carriers of it. They thought the virus could be contained by locking their flight down. But they don't know about any cure either. This is when the man eliminates himself, and the passengers realize they are not wanted outside and no one is coming for them. The ground staff informs them that there is a way out, which is an incompletely built terminal. Suddenly, the captain-turned-zombie tries to bite off the ground staff member, but fails to do so when he is eliminated. The group leaves to find the exit. Soon they encounter Paula, the flight hostess who was bitten and turned into a zombie. She tries to attack, but Jenny neutralizes her by throwing her down. Later on, when the ground staff locates the map for the exit, George finds the real truth about Henry. All of a sudden, there is a double zombie attack on them. The zombies try to bite George, but he is saved by Henry, who shoots them down. This is when George confronts Henry about his lie. It is revealed that Henry is some sort of maniac who wants a plague on Earth. He was behind the failed tests in the city, and he was the one carrying infected rats. He also takes the antidote after eliminating the ground staff member. Henry finally takes George with him and leaves the scene. Jenny and Shyla try to follow them up, but Jenny saves herself from a zombie in a close encounter, while Shyla gets bitten. She also hands over the thermal goggles to Jenny and decides to sacrifice herself for the air hostess. Jenny uses the thermal goggles and goes after George and Henry. Eventually she finds the kid, but George states that the antidote didn't work on Henry, and he has turned into a zombie. An infected Henry attacks Jenny, but George shoots him. At last, Jenny gets up and finally eliminates Henry. The authority outside decides to burn the place down. Jenny and George find the tunnel to escape and go on their way. Midway through the tunnel, George finds out that Jenny is infected. She keeps on insisting that George go alone, but he doesn't listen. In the end, George gets out and Jenny tries to attack him, but he saves himself by leaving his jacket behind. George leaves the premises while an infected cat is seen through the thermal goggles. The film ends here. I hope you liked this movie recap. Please comment on what you liked about this movie and what scene you liked, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.